Hey busy lady, have you signed up to receive Heal That Spirit email yet? I'm asking because today we wrap up the Habits Uncomplicated series, and today's episode is packed with tools to help you start and continue building and maintaining the habits that we've been talking about over the last few weeks. I created a habit tracker wheel, and I won't tell you how long I spent working on it this morning, but I do want to share it with you for free. You can't get it anywhere else. There's no gimmicks or tricks. It's completely free to you for you to use. You can print it as many times as you like. It's a PDF, and it'll help you keep track of this one habit that you decided to start on, and you can actually track it for as long as 6 months. So maybe I'll go on YouTube and do a video about, how to use it and how it works. I most certainly will do it in my Facebook group this week for sure. But of course, there is a link in the show notes to sign up for the email list. You can head over to my link tree. It's linktr.ee/TFN and click inbox freebies. Now, Linktree is kind of weird if you're not familiar with it. It's not actually spelled out Linktree. There's a dot, so it's linktr.ee/TFN. Tia obviously is my first name, and Fen, not like a fish, but the first 4 letters of my last name, which is FENN. I promise I'll never spam you. The most you'll receive an email from me is once a week. And let's be honest, it's me. I've promised you a podcast episode every week, but realistically speaking, with all the things going on in life, you probably won't get an email from me every single week. In any case, at any point, if you decide you don't want to hear from me anymore, then of course you can unsubscribe anytime. All right, let's heal that spirit for a healthy spirit. Hey, busy lady. Welcome to the Heal Thy Spirit podcast. Do you want to stop procrastinating and stay motivated to get things done? Are you a time-starved night owl, constantly searching for ways to have time freedom? Do you wake up most mornings with audacious goals, only to get distracted and overwhelmed when your busy life sidetracks your agenda? Then, instead of focusing on your to-do list, you've wasted countless hours scrolling Facebook ads for goal planners and habit trackers because all your multitasking has robbed the mental clarity you need to stay on target. Well, sis, you're in the right place. I, too, was juggling work, kids, and multiple responsibilities. I felt exhausted and disorganized and wished I could establish efficient daily habits and routines. I wanted more time, a flexible schedule, and a plan I could stick to. Actually finish what I'd started. I used to think everyone else's needs should come first, and I truly believed chasing my own dreams was selfish, until I discovered my secret ingredient: success coaching mixed with a little planning and a lot of prioritization. In this podcast, you'll get useful time-saving tools, habit hacks, and the accountability to ignite your own fire so you can hit those targets and confidently crush your goals. I'm a talker and a no-holds-barred kind of teacher. So go grab one of those pretty little notebooks I know you've been hoarding. Girl, me too. It's crush time. Welcome back. I am so excited to be wrapping up the 5th installment of our Habits Uncomplicated series. Today we are putting everything together that we've been working on into a concise plan of action. We have defined a habit, decided the who, why, what, when, and where of habits, developed habit goals based on who we want to be. Now it's time to do that thing, girl or guy. My manager at work told me that he listens to the podcast, so shout out to Jaren if you're listening. Totally cracks me up. Anyway, we're up to episode 20, double digits. How's that for consistency? I digress. Anyway, episode 20, as the title suggests, includes habit hacks. Now, being the wordsmith that I am, I like to make sure what I'm saying is, or make sure that what I'm saying authentically conveys the message that I'm trying to put out there for you. So I often take it to the dictionary, and if you've been here for more than 5 minutes, then you're used to my definitions. Anyway, one of the 16 definitions of hack on vocabulary.com is their 7th definition listed, and it explains it as a verb that means to be able to manage or manage successfully. This is precisely the message that I want you to take away from today's episode. I want you to hack, in other words, manage, or better yet, manage habits successfully using the SPIRIT acronym in the Heal Thy Spirit podcast title. So a quick refresher on that. The S stands for sanctity. So basically all that is spiritual or embodies us seeking God first, scripture, alliteration. I can't help myself, but you get it. Regardless of the word that stands out to help you remember the S, the first letter is God stuff. Then the P is for physicality, which is meant to encompass whenever I have topics about the actual physical body, like health, wellness, fitness, etc. But it also covers our physical space, so the environment around us, which we talked about in episode 18, the where you'll do your habits. The first I equals identity. Generally speaking, on the podcast, I'm referring to who God says you are, who you believe you are, and or who you want to become, and how to bridge the gap between the two or three. In essence, this is where we tackle your mindset and personal growth. The R is for resources, just what it says, the tactical tools, books, trackers, people, etc. that'll help you get where you want to be. Now, I've also looped money into this category because financial wellness is also super important. Everybody has money goals, myself included. My day job is actually in the financial services industry, so I have decades and decades. Okay, rewind. I have 2 decades plus some change of experience in this area, so I certainly can help you heal your spirit, in this category. And sorry, I digress once again. The second I stands for implementation. And well, girls, that is everything this podcast is about, with goal setting and productivity and all the things. I hope to teach you some time saving and time structuring steps that will help you plan, prioritize, be more productive in your goals. And finally, the T is for truth. This is testimony. The thing that all the other letters, when multiplied together over time, will yield results. I'm always telling you stories about my truth, and of course, I look forward to sharing more of these successes, not just mine, but also from other women I know who are out there doing their thing and want to show you His glory in her story. Spoiler alert. I promise I am trying to keep this short, but the Holy Spirit keeps dropping these tidbits, and I apparently can't keep them to myself. Okay, one more thing before we get into the actual tools that I wanted to talk about today. Let's talk about motivation. I mentioned it here first because I did use that word in the title, and I want to be completely transparent. There's absolutely zero chance to make motivation a constant in any area of your life. I think I'll probably do a future episode all about the myths surrounding motivation and willpower, but of course that is another topic in itself for another day. What I do want to say is there will be times when you don't want to continue. There will be times when you want to quit. Hear it again. There will be times when you want to quit. The things that motivate us day to day in the different stages or seasons of our life are always changing. Therefore, what motivates us is also always changing. Keep that in mind as we go through the things that I'm sharing today, and pull 1 or 2 or 10 from your spirit toolbox or treasure chest, if you will, to help you overcome the idea of quitting. My pal Misty, and I'm not being weird calling her my pal Misty, that's literally how you would find her. She has a YouTube channel with the handle Your Pal Misty. It'll be in the show notes, of course. But anyway, she has lost, I think it's 120, 130 pounds at this point over the last 2 years. And correct me, apologies, Misty, if you're listening and I got the number wrong, but she doesn't so much care about the number anyway. If you get to know her, you'll get to know that as well. But she's lost a crap ton of weight in the last 2 years. And she always says that motivation isn't real. The discipline to do it anyway is what keeps her going. And you don't get that discipline from willpower. You get that from habits, the things that you do automatically without thinking about them. So I just wanted to interject that little piece in there before we get started. All right, back to our acronym, SPIRIT, SPIRIT. So the first S, sanctity. I'm actually going to call it scripture today and reference 1 Corinthians 10:31. The NLT and the NIV version say it exactly the same. So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do it all for the glory of God. And the reason that I picked that scripture is not because, it has anything to do with eating or drinking. Backstory to where that verse, to give you some context for that verse, the people were giving Paul a lot of flack because he was appealing to the Gentiles, and he was, the church was questioning him to, if they served the things that were, like non-kosher food, should they eat them, yada, yada, yada. And basically he was saying, he gave a whole thing, but that, again, has nothing to do with what we're talking about. The point is that it's not about the food. It's about doing what God put you here to do. And so that's a good verse that, helps me to remember or kind of ask myself whenever I'm in the situation where I have to make a decision, is really just asking myself, is this something that, or like, do you remember that phrase, like back in the, 90s or early 2000s, everyone had those bracelets. WWJD, what would Jesus do? I actually never had one because back at that time I wasn't really, walking the walk, to be honest. But I remember, the campaign or whatever. And it is a good reminder to remember that what you're doing is because he's giving you the will, the strength, and the power to do it. And so that's why I chose this scripture to talk about this topic. All right, moving on to P, physicality. We talked about in episode 13, that's the third part of this series, we talked about environment and routines and kind of setting yourself up for success. I mentioned, for me, I set my environment up so that it's conducive to the things that I want it to be. It's like if you, are somebody that's always running late and you can never find where things are when you're running out the door. You never know where your keys are. That's a good one that I'm sure everyone can relate to. Well, I've set up my environment so that my keys go in the same place. When I come into the house, they go right in the same spot on the kitchen counter, and that's where they stay until I'm ready to exit the house. And, so that's setting up my environment to be, conducive to how I want to live. That way, I might be late for some other reason, but it's not going to be because I can't find my keys. Same thing with, my morning exercise. How I mentioned I put my clothes in the bathroom. My space, the bathroom, is a place that I'm already going. I'm setting up the environment so that my workout clothes are there so that I can put them on and be ready to work out when that time comes that morning. Really the tool or the advice here is to set up your environment for success. Implementing routines or having routines or putting things into the routines that you already have, your morning routines, your workday routines, your meeting routines, your bedtime routines, your cleaning routines, your gratitude routines, your self-care routines, your exercise routines. I could go on and on and on about routines, and I think we've talked about them quite a bit over the last few weeks. But those are the things that I want you to put next to physicality, is your environment, and specifically your environment as it relates to the routines where you're implementing these new habits. Okay, the first I is identity. So who does God say you are? Who do you want to become? We definitely talked about this a lot throughout the series. I am a mindset coach. Here is where I want you to go back to that list that I had you make a few weeks ago that included all the habits that the future you, future Sasha, in this case, those habits, or that list of habits for that person that you want to become in the future, the things they do automatically. Remember to, as I go through these bullet points of ideas, I want you to remember to use all 5 of your senses, because it will help you to solidify, these routines and habits into your life. Remember, you are what you do. So make it, the next 3 things that I mentioned in line with the habit that you're working to make or break. The first one for identity is affirmations or declarations. I'm sure you know what they are. Some people call them I am statements, or God says I am statements. I did 2 episodes about this, actually, episodes 12 and 13, talk about some of the declarations that I use that are biblically based. If you are not, Christian, or, someone that practices any sort of faith, this can still work for you. I don't recommend it, but if that's not your cup of tea, I'm not here to, force your hand. The idea is to, get it in your mind. So you would, figure out what you want those affirmations or declarations to be based on the person that you want to become. Write them in a journal in present tense, or a diary that you touch. Remember the 5 senses every day. I started this practice actually when Rachel Hollis used to make these or distribute these Start Today journals, where you would have the first 3 lines of it would be, 3 things that you're thankful for. Then it would be 10 goals that you're setting. And then the last thing would be the thing that you were going to work on for that day. So I kind of, flipped that a little bit. And it's more of, those are my I am statements or reminders of who I'm going to be. You could even write those habits, that habit list, and kind of adopt those. But I want you writing them down with pen and paper, not doing it digitally, because again, we're talking about the touch, and there's, some science in the, pen to paper and how it works with your brain. And you're also obviously using your sight there as well. But that's the first one. The second one is you can, once you've written those down, you can actually record yourself speaking those declarations, like in the voice memo app on your phone, and then listen to them every morning and every night. So you're hearing yourself. So, we already got you writing it down, which is a see-touch exercise, recording, and then listening to that. That's actually a speak-listen exercise, or a speak-hear exercise. And then the third one is stand in front of a mirror and speak those declarations to yourself. So like literally point to yourself as if you're talking to yourself and speak those declarations over yourself. And, that's another sight application, but there's that. As for smell and taste, think back to the habit stacking trick that I had mentioned a few weeks ago. You can actually link these activities, the writing, the recording, listening, and speaking. You can link that to part of your routine. So whether you do it in the morning, or whether you do it at lunchtime, or whether you do it at the end of the day, If you're doing it on a daily basis and you're linking it to something else, so let's say, for example, you already have a cup of coffee every morning. As you write in your journal every morning and sip your coffee, you're going to start to associate the aroma and the taste of the coffee to the activity of journaling. There's also science about that in your quiet time. I'll definitely, the science is not about your quiet time, all my thoughts. I'm like so excited about this episode, and I just want to tell you all the things, out of order, because the thoughts are popping into my head. Tia, don't forget to say this. What I was trying to say, taste of the coffee and the smell of the coffee, if you smell that and taste that every single morning when you're writing down your declarations, your brain is going to link together drinking coffee and tasting coffee to the words that you're putting down in your diary, in your journal. So that the idea is, even if you're not writing in your journal, when you're drinking coffee or tasting coffee, you remember the thoughts you were having, which are your declarations, and that helps to, reinforce those thoughts and feelings, and your brain is starting to believe that you are this person who you have stated that you are. So again, like I said, that could be an entire episode. I'll add that to the list of things that I want to share with you. The point of this is basically keep the future you in focus, your eyes on the prize. All right, we're almost done, just halfway there, or more than halfway there actually, but we have 3 more letters to hit. For R in resources, there's this show notes has the longest list of resources, I think, of any episode that I've ever put out. But we talked about Atomic Habits by James Clear. That's a book. And I mentioned it in a couple of episodes throughout this series. This is the first time I'm talking about it today, but it is a very, very, very thorough. I say thorough, but it actually is a short read. I read it in like 2 days. I think if you listen to it on audio, you can probably get through it in like 5 hours. So, I mean, if you have a 30-minute commute to work, you could listen to it going to and coming back from work every day, Monday through Friday, and get through the whole book. So that's one that I highly, highly recommend. And side note, all these resources that I'm mentioning, I do not get paid for anything. I have about probably 30 to 40 of y'all that listen to me on a consistent basis every week. And that is not enough people to be getting paid advertising. But the whole point of this is, to help the person that doesn't know where the answers are, and, give you ideas to be able to find what you need to get the thing done. So there's that. All right, as far as tracking tools, so I mentioned already, using a journal or a diary or a notebook. And I forgot when I was talking about the Start Today journal, like Rachel Hollis does not produce that anymore. But the reason I tell you everything that was in it is because you don't actually need her journal, because those literally are it's like 190 pages or something like that of exactly the layout that I told you. And she'll tell you this herself. She was doing it for years in a blank notebook, and that's what she's using now that she's not making the journals anymore. So you don't need anything fancy. You can get a composition notebook. I mean, they're like 50 cents at Walmart. If you already have a diary or a journal, you might like a fancy, pretty one. Totally that. I actually have just started using a blank notebook. It's a little bit prettier, but it was super cheap, like $10 on Amazon or something. But it has like a content section in the front. They're all blank, but you can write the page numbers. It's basically just numbered. Each page is numbered, and there's a spot for you to write the date. And I've decided this is going to be my everything journal, or my everything notebook. And so I write all the things in this notebook and carry it with me everywhere I go. So if I get an idea, or if I have a feeling and I want to journal, or if there's a prayer, or an exercise routine that I like, or a podcast that I'm listening to, everything is going to be in this journal. and I'm going to use up every page of it. When I get to the end, I'll get another one and start over. But if it's something really important, like if I come up with a podcast idea while I'm not at home, I'm out and about, I can write it in there, and then I can put a little note in the front that says, I know that all my podcast topics are on pages 1, 17, 30, and 84 or whatever. So that's, one tracking tool if you want to write down what you're tracking. Then, of course, there you could track in your planner. So there's if you like digital, good old-fashioned Google Calendar is the best. That's what I use. You can color code it. You can link it up to your Apple if you have a Mac or an iPhone. But I like Google's calendar better than the default calendar for Apple because it's more user-friendly with the colors and things like that. That, again, is another episode that I could do to show you what my calendar looks like. If you like a paper planner, then my favorite planner is the Prayerful Planner. And again, the link to that will be in the show notes. She actually offers, it's a small business, a small faith-based business, and she comes up with a new design every year, or several new designs every year. And she actually also makes the Prayerful Journal, which I use, pretty consistently. I think I've talked about that on here before, but it gives you a page. And there, in the Prayerful Planner, she has a dated version and an undated version, and she also sells a digital download. So like if you use GoodNotes or something like that, you can just download it digitally and use it that way. But it's the exact same layout as the paper planner. And it has on the left side, it's just blank pages for you to write your prayers. I used to write, basically dear God type whatever. Now, recently, I've started using it to take notes when I'm doing morning devotionals, or I've been doing the daily refresh in the Bible app. If you haven't, if I don't have a particular book study that I'm working on. So there's that. And then on the right side, she actually has Prayerful as an acronym. So the P is for praise, the R is for rejoice, the A is for affirmation, the Y is for yield, and then emotionally is the E, and it has little smiley faces for how you're feeling that day. And then the second half is, for you to fill out at night. Reflection lists 3 things that happened today. Forgiveness, what do you need forgiveness for or to repent for that particular day. The U is for uplift, who can lift you up in prayers. And then the L is for lesson, what did God teach you today? So I highly recommend this to keep track of, the things that you're doing, whether it be drinking more water, reading your Bible, just empty in the dishwasher after dinner, whatever the thing is, keep track of it in some form or fashion. What else? There's 2 apps. I call them apps, but I put them in this digital or physical planner section because both of them can link to your digital calendars, and it helps you with keeping track of tasks and things of that nature. And the reason that there's 2 of them, Notion is a free app, so you can, set that up. They have other options that are paid, but I use the free version. I, did a trial run of the paid version, and it is great. It's a little more complicated to use, so that's why I kind of put it as a maybe for some people, but you can, take notes and keep notebooks. I actually have my Evernote, which is an online notebook, linked to my Notion, so it's all together. But you can also set up tasks similar to Asana if you've ever used that. I'm not a fan of Asana, so Notion was the thing that I liked. I kind of did my research, and there's tons of tutorials on YouTube about how to use it and things like that, but I do highly recommend it because it is free, so you can take your time getting to learn how to use it and see if it's something that you want to stick with. The other one is Motion with an M. So the free one that you could upgrade to a paid version is Notion, in Nancy. This other app is called Motion with an M, like Mary. And it is similar, but it uses AI to kind of automatically schedule your tasks. So if you wanted to basically you link all your calendars, and you can link multiple calendars. That's why I love Notion. I'm a fan so far. I'm only like 2 to 3 weeks into using it, but I super love it because of the layout. I link it to my Google Calendar and every email account that I have, so that because a whole other thing, I'm weird about multiple email addresses. So like I have an email for like my fitness stuff, because I don't like junk mail and I don't like clutter. So I don't give my regular main email account address out to anybody except my actual friends and people that I talk to person. If I ever sign up for something, I have separate accounts. So like my fitness account is a separate Gmail account. And then I have one for like my bills. So like my monthly, utilities and things like that, anything that I'm paying money to, that's a separate account. And long story short, I can link all of those accounts to Notion. It does not link up to iCloud though. So it has to be either an Outlook calendar or Google Calendar. And that's one of the downfalls of that. But they have an app, and you can, do it online as well. And that's the same with Notion. You can go to their website or do it on the app once it's set up. So those are two really good productivity tools. But like I said, it's a little more complex. If you just want to keep it easy, simple, stick with Google Calendar or a digital or physical planner or both. And then third is using a habit tracker. Now that is what I kind of mentioned in the intro. I created a habit tracker that I got the concept from my business coach a kingdom-led business coach, Heather. I talk about her actually all the time on here, but she introduced us to one of the courses of hers that I took, this habit tracker. And, with her neuroscience, she teaches that it takes 67 days to form a habit. I'm going to say, kind of take that with a grain of salt. The other day I saw 66 days on someone else's thing. You hear people say 30 days, 90 days. I don't know. I told you before, it takes as long as it takes. So I've set up this tracker to track one habit at a time, and you can track it over a 6-month period, and it will help you, you can count each month, at the end of each month, how many days you actually completed that habit. And then at the end of the, you can see it grow. So like the first month, you might miss you're going to miss probably the most days the first month because it's new and you're just learning. Don't give up. Just don't color in that block. Move on to the next day and keep an honest record of what you do. And then as far as apps, so these are a few of the apps that I use or have used. I used to use this app, so you can only get it on Android, called Streaks. And I actually heard about it from April Perry on Learn, Do, Become. But you can basically list all your habits and check them off every day. And a streak is basically like how many days in a row you do something. It just, if you log into the app, then it counts as whatever. So a lot of people get that adrenaline rush from checking off a box, and it's similar to, the idea of the habit tracker, that the paper one that I'm providing to you when you sign up for my email list, but it's digital. But it's also only available on Android phones, because I looked for it on Apple and I couldn't find it, but it's still on my Android phone and it still works. So there's a link for that in the show notes. One that you can use for Apple is actually one that one of my coaching clients recommended, because she's been using it this week and we've been working on it. And I looked at it and I liked it, and it's free and or super cheap. So with Structured is what it's called, and you can find it in the App Store for Apple. And it's also kind of like putting together a calendar and a to-do list where you can link those, and you can use the free version. You have limited use, like you can't set up like recurring reminders if you don't have the paid version, but the paid version is super cheap. It's like, I feel like it was like $10 a month, or you could pay $30 and have it for life. So that's a really good investment. Even if you only use it for 6 months, you only spent $30 and, it's not going to waste. But if it's something that you really like and it helps you keep track of your habits and your calendar and all the things, then I would say $30 is certainly worth it. And then some other apps that I've been using, that I'm in a season of fitness and health. So my Fitness Pal is another good one. I have it linked up to my Fitbit, and it basically, I just go in to log my food and keep track of the food that I'm eating. So that's a good tracker app. My Fitbit, the app that comes with that, is a really good tracker app, not just for your steps, but any exercise you're doing. And like I said, I have it linked to my Fitness Pal so that they talk to each other. Track your water, you can track all sorts of things. Fit On is another app that has a tracker feature. It's really for like exercise and workouts, and it is a free app that you can sign up and you can do the workouts. They're like on-demand workouts you could do for free. But also I can link that to my Fitbit so that when I'm exercising, I can turn it on my tracker and it automatically records the exercise that I do. Or, if you don't, I like Fitbit's tracker better, so I'll do that, and then I'll go into Fit On and manually add the workouts that I did for that day. And if you have an iPhone, of course, Apple Health is a free app that's on your phone automatically. If you have an Apple Watch, works the same way as Fitbit, a little bit different features, but you get the point. So those are some of the tracking apps that I personally use. But depending on what the habit is and what you're looking to do, there certainly are probably apps that you like, and if there are, I'd love to hear about them so that I can mention them to help other people on future episodes. All right, we're getting long here. I knew this was going to be a long one, even though as hard as I try. The second I is for implementation. And here is really where I want to talk about accountability. That is going to be the biggest provider to help motivate you and keep you going and have you to continue to do the things. I mean, obviously the resources that I just mentioned will help you get started, and it'll help you keep track of how you're doing and kind of motivate you or give you something else to look back on, like maybe in the future once you've gotten past it or made it a habit and you want to add on a new habit. Those are good things to go back to and to continue to use. They're habits in and of themselves if you can actually get to using them consistently. But the big thing for me here with implementation is setting up accountability. There's all types of accountability that you can have. It's kind of more of what works for you. Any of them is better than none of them. Multiple of them is probably even better, just depending on how structured you are or are not. But of course, you could get an accountability partner, one person, or that you invite to build this habit with. I have a friend at work that talks about she signed up for a gym membership and started going with a friend of hers. Their kids are in school together and they started going to the gym together every morning. And having an accountability partner, somebody that's there waiting for you, is really going to increase the likelihood that you're going to stick with the thing. So even if you don't feel like it, if you know somebody's there waiting for you, then you're inclined to, as Misty would say, do it anyway. Accountability groups, I talk about that a lot here. There's coaching groups, there's just people who have like interests that are interested or trying to achieve the same goals as you. If you signed up for a 10K, a lot of times there's training groups that you could become a member of and kind of train together to get ready for that thing. Your church groups, there's, work groups. We have like a book club at work, which helps me read a little bit more. There's all kinds of things and groups out there. I mean, if you've been on Facebook or heard of Facebook or anything like that, then of course, there's tons of groups there. So you get the idea of what I'm saying with there. And then number 3, of course, I am going to mention coach. Get a coach. I have coaches. I am a coach. I'm not saying hire me to do anything, but that is an option that's available to you. If you really just someone egging you on, someone who's done what you're looking to do, or maybe they haven't done what exactly you're looking to do, but they have experience with how to get things done, or they give you open or free space to kind of vent out and talk through your issues and talk through the things that are getting you stuck and kind of helping you get over that hurdle, so to speak. Like a coach, like a sports coach would help their team win the game. They may not be specifically playing the game or doing it for them, but they know the tools that are needed, and they're there to push and egg you on and hold you accountable for doing the things that you say that you're going to do. And then finally, dare I say it, you could use a little bit of self-accountability by posting on social media or even starting a YouTube channel, talking about the thing that you're doing. And once you start posting and people start commenting and making recommendations and egging you on, if you miss a day or two, they'll start to ask where you've been. It's a really good way to hack your brain into doing the habit, where we talked about the cue and the reward, and sometimes that reward is just somebody saying way to go on something that you've commented on. So I do highly recommend that, as long as it's it doesn't become an issue for you. You'll know, if you have a problem with addiction to social media, then that might not be the option that you choose, but I'm putting it out there because it does help. And finally, truth. So I want you to envision what your truth is. What is the testimony that you want to share on the other end of it? You can email me at healthatspiritwithtia@gmail.com. You can comment in the Facebook group, Heal That Spirit, link is in the show notes, or even message me on Instagram. I'm trying to be on there just a little bit more often, so feel free to message me there. I'm tia.fenn. Not like the fish, but like the first four letters of my last name, Fenn. And I definitely will, get back to you in any, whichever format you choose to reach out to me. I would truly love to hear how you're doing, or what you're working on, or any roadblocks that you might be encountering, any suggestions for things you'd like me to talk about here. But yeah, that is really it. This was a really long episode, and I'm sorry, but hopefully there's tons and tons of information that you can pull to, hack those habits, establish the routines, track what you're doing, and be accountable so that you can continue to stay motivated. And I guess that's all I have for you this week. I will talk to you again next week, hopefully on Saturday and not Sunday. And if I don't speak to you sooner, I hope that you have a great week. Thank you, ladies, for hanging out with me today. It's been a blast. Now, if today's episode was good for you and the Spirit leads, please write a review to help others find us and receive some of the value that you got today. Okay, until next time, I'll see you over in the Healthy Spirit Facebook group. Link is in the show notes for you procrastinators. May grace and peace be yours in abundance. Take care.